Good evening. We're going to go ahead and call our meeting to order. We'd like to welcome you to this meeting of the College Station Independent School Board of Trustees. We were elected at large to represent the interest of our community and our state in educating our students. Our mission for our students in this district is success each life, each day, each hour. We adhere to all pertinent laws, policies, and procedures in posting agendas and conducting our meetings. The detailed agenda information was made available to us at least 72 hours in advance, and we have all come to this meeting informed and prepared. We have just completed a workshop meeting where we heard reports and discussed much of the information needed to make decisions in either this meeting, or in upcoming meetings. This is a meeting of the 7 trustees in a public setting rather than a public meeting. As such, public comment is included on the agenda at a specific time and requires us to listen rather than take action so as to abide by the Open Meetings Act. We are pleased that you have taken time this evening to join us. We are very proud of this school district and we thank you for your interest in and support of our students. Again, we'd like to welcome you here tonight, and I'd like to declare a quorum of, I would like to say 6 trustees. I'm going to say 6 trustees. Mr. Ben? He went to get his jacket. He was a little chilly. Okay,
hang on. Just wait, just right there.
All right.
And now you can declare a quorum of 6 members.
I never thought I would have to even try to vamp during this. Now we have a quorum of 6 trustees with the fan favorite, Mr. Josh Ben, arriving. It's going to take us to C1, Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag and Texas flag, and moment of silence. Mr. Martindale.
Thank you, Mr. Nugent. We have Ms. Jackie Hahn here, who is our Assistant Director of Special Services. Jackie is going to introduce our guests from Extended School Year that are going to assist us with our pledge this evening. Ms. Hahn?
Good evening, everyone. Our students have been attending ESY this summer.
Talk here, so check.
Good evening, everyone. Our students have been attending ESY this summer, and I'd like to first introduce our educators. So we have Paula Henderson, and we have Adriana Escamilla, and we have Devin Henry. And with Paula, we have Jake Murillo Gomez, and then we have our Wyatt Taylor, and then we have Miles Lozano. Okay, you ready? Ready? Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now for the Texas flag. I honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. And now for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Jackie, any pictures? If you guys would like pictures, for sure. Very good.
Thank you all so much.
Hold up, guys. We do have a student recognition. We do have one student recognition this evening. Mr. Glenwinkle.
Thank you, Mr. Martindale, Mr. Nugent, members of the board. This evening, we have the pleasure of recognizing a young man whose artwork is currently hanging in the governor's mansion. His artwork was entered into a statewide contest through the Texas Art Educators Association and was selected as a featured winner by the First Lady of Texas, Cecilia Abbott. He was honored at the governor's mansion in June. And evidently, the apple doesn't fall too far from the art tree, as his mom, Amber, is the art teacher at South Knoll Elementary, where Cade was a fourth grader last year. Next year, Cade will be going into fifth grade at Oakwood Intermediate. So please join me in congratulating Mr. Cade Herbelin. Cade, come on up.
Come on up, guys. We're going to pose for picture. Let's get this folks up here. You got to get the photo of all of them. There we go. Sorry. All right. Take us to C2, where we get to recognize, speaking of artwork.
Whoops, there we go. That's better. Is that better, Chuck?
Yes, sir.
C2, we're going to recognize artwork provided by students in the CSISD Extended School Year program. It's displayed in the back, so before you leave, you'd like to take an opportunity to see some more of the art from our talented artists in the district. It's going to take us to our consent agenda in item D. And that is going to be E3, E4, E5, item G, H3, I2, then J5, J6, J7, J8, and J9. Are there any items that anyone would like taken off consent? Mr. Hall has a mischievous look. Okay.
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And it's going to take us to item E, board directions and reports, announcements, and our superintendent report. I know it's summer. There is it's a little slow. Does anybody have any committee reports? I bet the guy to my left does.
No committee report.
Well, fair enough. Superintendent
Good.
report?
Absolutely. Just a few data points and then some celebrations. Summer school, we still have a few going, but all in all, a majority of those have wrapped up. We serviced just under 2,000 students in summer school this past year. Breakfast and lunches served by Ms. Goodlett in our child nutrition department through July the 14th. 10,500 breakfasts and over 13,000 lunches. We did host I believe our first ever district auxiliary job fair yesterday from 4 to 7 at Consol. We were able to hired bus drivers, custodians, and child nutrition positions. I will say, and I'm going to look at Mr. Hall to correct me on this, but word on the street is that we are 100% staffed with our custodial staff after yesterday, which has been a while. Is that a correct statement? Yes, sir, that's correct. Very good. That's a celebration. We're real close to that in child nutrition. Just a few more positions. Ms. Goodlett communicated to me that we're ahead of the curve for this time of the year there as well. So I would consider our auxiliary job fair a success yesterday. Also, congratulations or celebrations to our A&M Consolidated Assistant Principal Kiki Johnson. You may have seen Kiki was named the Region 6 Assistant Principal of the Year by the Texas Association of Secondary School Principals. So congratulations to her and the wonderful work she does and being recognized by Region 6. Also, recently, Texas Education Agency announced that Michelle Jedlicka, one of our teachers, Consol, was named one of 6 finalists for the Presidential Awards for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching. So kudos to Michelle. And this came out hot on the press this morning, but Mr. Chris Souther was named the Outstanding Administrator for Area 12 by the Texas Agriculture Teachers Association of Texas just this morning at their conference in Corpus Christi. So kudos to all of those folks and their recognitions since our last board meeting in June. A few dates of importance. August the 3rd, board members, 6 p.m. summer school graduation will be held here in the boardroom. August the 4th, and you should have received an invite from Mr. Mann, but we do have our new Teacher University luncheon at Peach Creek Ranch. That begins at noon, I believe. August the 10th, I'm not sure what's occurring on August the 10th, but put that in your calendar. August the 10th, 8:30 a.m. at Central Church, we'll have our district convocation. Looking very much forward to that. We were not able to come together as a group last year. And of course, August the 17th is our August regular board meeting, but it is also the first day of school. So, and one final one that I need to be reminded of, or Ms. Horn would get me later, the TASB Convention, September 24th through 26th. If you have not communicated with Ms. Horn your intentions, you have until tomorrow afternoon to do that, or both you and I are in trouble. So please take a look at your calendar and let her know your intentions on if you're able to attend the conference. We have to reserve hotel rooms, and we have to be very diligent with that, and that opens up Thursday morning. So that does it for the superintendent's update. Mr. Nugent?
It's going to take us to E2, consideration and possible approval of an order calling a bond election to be held by the College Station ISD on November 2nd, 2021. Mr. Martindale.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Nugent. In January, the Board of Trustees approved a bond planning committee charter to review the possible need for a bond referendum to be presented to the voters in November of 21. This committee met 5 times beginning late March through May to review prioritized projects identified by the district. The committee's work was facilitated by VLK Architects, and a recommendation was shared with the Board of Trustees at the June 20th board meeting to move forward with a possible November 21 bond election. That would include 4 referendums totaling $83.16 million. The recommended projects, which were shared at the June meeting as well as earlier this evening during our regularly scheduled workshop, covered deferred maintenance, safety security upgrades, facility upgrades, land acquisition, technology, Phase 1 of a CTE Ag Center, fine arts equipment, buses, as well as some additions and upgrades to athletic facilities and the district's natatorium. Again, these projects make up the 4 referendums that total the $83.16 million and are outlined in detail in the attached descriptions to this agenda item. If approved by the board and passed by the voters, the above propositions would not increase our current debt service tax rate. So, Mr. Nugent, we do have Ms. Strauss and our bond legal counsel, Jeff Golbus. Where did Jeff disappear to? I'm sorry, Jeff. Here in case there are any additional questions, but it is administration's recommendation to approve an order calling a bond election to be held by the College Station ISD on November 2nd, 2021.
Okay, I know we've spent a lot of time on this the last couple months. Are there any questions or comments?
I just have a comment from this past board meeting and then this workshop and going through the project descriptions. I just want to thank everyone who served on this committee. This was very comprehensive, very well laid out. And it was great to see the consideration of literally every school in the district in this recommendation. So just wanted to, no questions. They've all been answered. Thank you.
Mr. Nugent, and you mentioned this at the workshop earlier, but we do have a number of people on the a number of guests here in our audience that served on the Bond Planning Committee, and we'd just like to absolutely pass our thanks on for their time and involvement, engagement in that process.
All right, nothing else? Do we have a motion?
I will make a motion to, what am I making a motion for? To pass the, I'm making a motion for the 2020 bond election, that we put this up for election this fall.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the motion will pass 6-0. Thank you so much. I know Ms. Drozd was hoping for one more opportunity to talk publicly about this. All right, it's going to take us to item F, hearing of citizens. Ms. Horn, do we have any?
I do not.
We do not, okay. Move along to H1, consideration and discussion and possible action related to updating the shared services arrangement regarding the Brazos Valley Regional Day School Program for the Deaf. Mr. Martindale.
Thank you, Mr. Nugent. Board members, this item's an update to our shared services agreement to meet the needs of our hearing impaired students. And here with more details is our Chief Administrative Officer, Mrs. Molly Perry.
All right, good evening. We actually began this conversation regarding the update for our shared services arrangement back in February 2020. And as you may recall, we had some derailment of many activities subsequent to that February 2020 meeting. And as a result, this has been a more lengthy process than we might have typically experienced. But we are part of a shared services arrangement to support our students with auditory impairments here in College Station ISD. There are 30 other districts that are involved in this arrangement, and Bryan ISD serves as the fiscal agent and the host district for those students who require on-site services. The Brazos Valley Regional Day School for the Deaf serves students not only in Bryan ISD, but comes over and sends teachers that specialize in the needs of students with auditory impairments for our students here in College Station ISD. We have a fantastic and long-standing relationship with the BVR DSPD, and this updated shared service arrangement document that you have attached to your agenda would provide for that ongoing relationship with just a few updates related to some consultation costs, some clarification if any charter schools would like to join the SSA, as well as some clarifications around expenses and information regarding legal responsibilities of the sending and receiving district. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have about these updates.
All right, so no questions or comments? All right, so we will be needing to take action.
Correct. Approval of presented, as presented, please. Shared services agreement.
I move to accept as presented.
I'll second.
All right, with a motion and a second, no further discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. H2, consideration, discussion, and possible action related to the approval of the district improvement plan goals for 2021-22. Mr. Martindale.
Thank you, Mr. Nugent. Dr. Trammell, our Chief Academic Officer, is here to review the goals for our 21-22 district improvement plan. As you will notice, these 6 goals mirror that of our recently completed strategic plan. And with more detailed information, Dr. Trammell.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. We are seeking approval of the district improvement plan goals. They were approved by the DEIC, the District Education Improvement Council, at the June meeting. You will notice that they look very familiar to you. Those are the goals that our strategic planning team or committee came up with, and they essentially were just lifted into our district improvement plan because we believe strongly that that committee did a lot of hard work and looked at the data for the district and knows what we need to grow and improve in, and we did a comprehensive executive summary on our data, and the goals fit what we need to work on as a district. So with that, we do come this evening seeking approval of the district improvement plan goals for the 2021 school year.
Any questions for Dr. Trammell?
Not a question, but a comment, and I guess similar to earlier. First, thanks to you, your team, and really the whole council. That's a long list of people that put a lot of work into this document. It was also exciting to see it start off with the goals from our strategic planning and how that's going to fit into some more specifics that our district's going to work on. And again, I guess that's where the real thank you comes in, is it's coming forward, because there's a lot of to-do items on there. And but it's just great to see that they're focused on what we have found to be important through that strategic planning exercise. So I'm excited to see it, and excited to see it move into fruition.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions or
Comments?
I move to accept as presented.
I second.
All right, with a motion and a second, any further discussion? All right, having none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'd have been worried if we had trouble with that one. All right, I-1, consider approval of new administrator contracts as recommended by the Superintendent of Schools for Principal of Spring Creek Elementary, Chris Southard, William Warner for Assistant Principal at A&M Consolidated High School, and Lauren Given, Assistant Principal at Forest Ridge Elementary. Mr. Martindale.
All right, thank you, Mr. Nugent. Tonight we do, as you mentioned, have 3 different administrative contract recommendations for the board to consider. The first, Mr. Chris Southard for principal at Spring Creek Elementary School. Mr. Southard's been here in the district since 2016, where he has served as assistant principal at College Station High School. Prior to joining CSISD, Chris has taught and worked in Frisco ISD, Carroll ISD, and Bryan ISD. We're also recommending Mr. William Warner for the position of Assistant Principal at A&M Consolidated High School. Mr. Warner will be joining us from New Waverly High School, where he has taught and been a math teacher and a coach. Prior to New Waverly, Mr. Warner has taught in Houston, Waller, and Cy-Fair ISDs. And our final administrative recommendation we have this evening is that of Ms. Lauren Given for Assistant Principal at Forest Ridge Elementary. Lauren has been a teacher here in CSISD since 2007 and currently serves as a 4th grade teacher at Forest Ridge Elementary. So, Mr. Nugent, we would be making a recommendation to approve all 3 of these administrative contracts.
I'd move to approve the recommendation of the superintendent as to these 3 contracts.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I just had one item of discussion. And I obviously have made the motion to approve, so I totally agree with Mr. Martindale and the hiring committees. But we did get one email from a concerned citizen about Mr. Southard's lack of elementary school experience. And so just to answer that email, I don't know if you could just share kind of the process and how great he's going to be at the position.
The process that we use for every principal position, of which we did for Mr. Southard as well, is a two-tiered interview process. In this particular case, it was with a committee of 6. Those representatives were made up of 2 campus-level administrators and 4 central office administrators. Half of that committee, 3 out of the 4, have prior elementary school principal experience. The 4th has elementary assistant principal experience. That committee held their interviews and recommended 2 finalists for a second round interview. The second round interview was with myself, Dr. Trammell, and Ms. Perry, of which Chris was selected for the position after that second round interview by the three of us. And again, as far as the elementary experience portion, Dr. Trammell and myself have both served in that role. And quite frankly, that is kind of the route that I followed also prior to becoming elementary school principal, is I was a high school teacher and a middle school assistant principal. And I think in this particular situation, the education of a student at a particular level is all encompassed by everybody at the campus and the responsibility of everyone. I think where the principal plays a key role, obviously in particular, is setting the instructional environment. And I think that's right in Mr. Southard's wheelhouse, regardless of the level. And I am extremely confident that he's going to do an exceptional job. He's exhibited those same skills as an assistant principal at the high school, and I have no doubt he'll do wonders to support our teachers and enhance the instruction and the climate and provide a very strong, or build a very strong morale there at Spring Creek.
Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Congratulations.
Okay, we have to do introductions now. And as the board's aware, then we give each of them 2 minutes, obviously, to come speak to the group. So whoever would like to go first. I see Lauren, I see Will. Mr. Southard jumped up, he's right. Look at this guy.
Let him do it. Let him do it.
Mr. Southard, I'm joking. Go back and introduce your family. So, Chris, no, please stand up. You're recognized. Please introduce your guest as well.
My beautiful wife, Amy, she's a 97 graduate from Saul. This is Bailey. Bailey will be a freshman next year at College Station High School. And this is Cody. Cody will be a fifth grader for Contra Elementary.
Very good. Congratulations, Mr. Southern. I'm just working my way around the room. Lauren Given. She brought Miss Cott with her.
4 and 7, and I said not today.
Congratulations, Lauren. Glad you're joining us. Will?
Will Warner, by myself.
Thank you, Will. Excited you were joining us.
All right, well, congratulations again. We are very excited about the future, and y'all are going to be a big part of that. It's going to take us to J1, which is consideration, discussion, and possible action related to the 2021-22 compensation plan. Mr. Martindale.
Thank you, Mr. Nugent. Again, we discussed this in great deal earlier this evening during our workshop. The district is recommending increasing employee compensation for 21-22. Here with more details, surprisingly, is our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Strauss.
It is shocking.
Thank you, Mr. Martindale. So as mentioned, the compensation plan for 21-22 is being presented for approval tonight. Just in summary, really quickly, this includes a change to the teacher salary schedule that brings the beginning teacher pay from $45,500 to $47,000. And as each teacher moves from, advances a step in the process, guarantees them at least $1,000 increase from their current year base pay. We did alter the stipend schedule, which is in the packet, with a few changes and modifications. Adjustments to the minimum, midpoint, and maximums of the actual pay groups for administrative and professional, clerical, and instructional assistants, and the auxiliary. This is based on a market analysis with our peer groups. 1.5% increase of each pay grade midpoint for all of those groups. A pilot attendance incentive program for specific employee groups, that being bus drivers, bus monitors, custodians, and cafeteria workers. An increase in the employer contribution rates for our health insurance, and the required language for the teacher incentive allotment. In total, the estimated impact to the general fund is just shy of $2.2 million, $2,191,000. And so with that, I will entertain any questions.
I'm assuming they were all asked earlier. Okay.
This will improve our district's position with our market peers, so that's very important.
And this will need some action, so we'll need a motion.
I motion to accept the 21-22 compensation plan as presented.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Without any further discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
All right, it's going to take us to J2, consideration, discussion, and possible action of a resolution authorizing a one-time employment retention stipend for eligible returning CSISD employees in the 2021-22 school year. Mr. Martindale.
Thank you, Mr. Nugent. Again, as we discussed earlier this evening, the administration is recommending a one-time employment retention stipend for eligible 2021 returning CSISD employees. In the 21-22 school year, we'd be utilizing ESSER funds for this one-time retention stipend. And here's Ms. Strauss with any additional details she'd like to share.
Thank you. So as mentioned, it's a one-time employee retention stipend to eligible employees. It will be done by way of, authorized by way of a resolution, which you have in front of you, with an exhibit that specifies which employees get the amount, the eligibility criteria, the hire dates, and that sort. But in summary, the amount would be $1,500 for teachers and what we call other professionals. They're also on teacher contracts, and $1,000 for the other pay groups of eligible employees. The plan is to have this paid at the end of August of this year out of ESSER 3 funds or ESSER 2, whichever one we decide. But it'll be ESSER 3 for sure for part of it.
Any questions or comments that we didn't get to earlier?
I would just like to, because where you live and breathe this and just, and throw around terms like ESSER, but for anybody who might be watching online or so forth, when we're referring to ESSER, what are we referring to?
I have to look up the full name now that you said that. So it's in the resolution, but I refer to it as ESSER, but it's the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Funds. These were made available through the federal government through the programs due to the pandemic and COVID relief. They allocated those to the state education agencies to funnel them to the districts.
And so these are, for lack of a better way to say it, funds that have some strings attached on what they can be used for.
Yes, sir. Okay. They are. And retention stipends is one thing that has been singled out as an eligible expenditure out of ESSER 3 and ESSER 2.
And for those that didn't watch the workshop, you sought stakeholder input in deciding this as the number one priority for these funds.
Yes, part of the process for application for ESSER 3 is to survey or get stakeholder input in some form or fashion. We did that through a survey of which employee retention stipends ranked very important with that group, as well as with our stakeholder group that kind of represented them in formulating the budget.
No other comments?
I move to accept as presented.
I second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. It's actually pretty fun to vote on a lot of these things that we've been talking about for a long time. A lot of items tonight have been on a lot of different agendas, so nice to get them off. That's going to take us to J3. Consider an act on an order authorizing redemption of outstanding bonds of the College Station Independent School District. Mr. Martindale.
So let's save some money since we've spent some. In the upcoming year, we'll have the opportunity to retire some of our existing debt early, ultimately saving the district and taxpayers some money. Ms. Strauss, additional comments on this item.
Yes. So estimates are based on our current debt service rate of 0.263 cents, that we can not only make our scheduled payments, but take advantage of some what we call early redemptions. And that is some higher interest rate debt that's sitting out there that's eligible to pay off early. And in essence, save interest. So what this resolution does is you as a board would authorize Mr. Martindale or myself at some point during next fiscal year when we know what our property values have ended up and what our tax receipts are, is to authorize us to execute this order and pay off some debt early, saving not only the district, but our taxpayers in the long run.
I move to accept as presented.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is going to be any discussion on this? Any questions? All right, with none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
All right, it's going to take us to J4. Consider approval of the purchase of Performance Matters Assessment Analytics Core Plus and Professional Learning from Power School in the amount of $131,089.50 per the TIPS contract 210101 using ESSER 3 funds. Mr. Martindale.
Mr. Nugent, we have the opportunity to transition from two different software platforms that support professional development and the management of our student assessment data to one platform which performs both these tasks as well as provides other enhancements. And with additional details on this possible purchase is our Chief Administrative Officer, Ms. Molly Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Martindale. So the conversation regarding this particular item actually began almost 2 years ago when our Committee of Technology Representatives and in Curriculum and Instruction really began conversing about how we might better streamline and support and serve in a variety of areas, looking at options regarding different software solutions. And that was put on hold a little bit, again, like so many other things, because we weren't looking to make major changes during a year like we experienced in 2021. The conversation picked back up in earnest as we really considered implementation of our strategic plan, and especially with that component of MTSS or multi-tiered systems of student supports. And the recommendation this evening is actually the beginning of a transition that will occur for the entire school year as we look to shift away from existing solutions of Eduphoria Aware and our Schoology AMP into a solution that is housed under that existing umbrella of Power School that we have for our student information system as well as our finance system. We went through a process of looking at several different options for this, and the Power School Performance Matters and Professional Learning were definitely the preferred solution, not only because they met the criteria that we were looking to achieve, as well as that integration with existing systems. And so, again, we would have about a year of transition, and while these are new costs, we would then transition away from existing expenses with Eduphoria and Schoology AMP. That does not mean we're leaving Schoology, but one specific component called AMP that we would no longer use. The system actually works very nicely with Schoology in that those assessments would then populate into Performance Matters and provide for a platform or a dashboard of student performance that included assessments from a variety of sources, including Schoology. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Not a question, but just a comment. I'm excited about this for a couple of the reasons you mentioned, but two particularly. One is, I mean, there's so much data out there, and we've heard it from our teachers and others that, if we can help manage that data, at all levels, if these tools can help us do that, to really help us focus on the students, all for that. The other thing is that it came up a lot when we were doing the strategic design again, because especially for our goal number 2, as really that MTSS part of it as a system that will be holistic and calibrated across all of our campuses and grade levels for supporting our students throughout their careers here. So very excited to hear that it's finally going to be in place to support those efforts. Well, hopefully it'll be in place. Yeah. I can make a motion that we approve the software purchase
That's the
as
beginning.
presented.
That's the first step.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I was getting worried. We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Okay. With none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you so much, Ms. Perry. All right, that is going to take us all the way down to item L, executive session, L1. The board will meet in executive session to consult with its attorney regarding bond election procedures. The executive session deliberations will be held pursuant to the consultation with attorney closed meeting exception to the Texas Open Meetings Act as set forth in section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code. And then we will stay there for item L2. The board will meet in executive session to discuss the superintendent contract. The executive session deliberations will be held pursuant to the personnel matters closed meeting exception to the Texas Open Meetings Act as set forth in section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code. So we will break for executive session, and we'll see you all when we're back. We are back in session. We've lost our crowd. And we're going to go to M1, consideration, discussion, and possible action related to the superintendent contract. It seems odd to ask, Mr. Martindale, did we ask you for anything? Do we have a motion?
I motion to accept or to present the superintendent's contract, adding for term limit July 1st, 2021, ending June 30th, 2024. And in addition to that, a 1.5% increase in compensation salary. And we are doing that as a board in conjunction with the 1.5% that we approved during the board meeting for the administrative staff, as he is part of that and was a leader through this entire process over the last year since his contract began. So I motion to, as presented tonight.
I'll second that motion.
All right, with a motion and a second, there has been much discussion already. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you all very much, and we are now adjourned.